There's a woman that I've got to know throughout the course of my priestly ministry, through counseling and through pastorally accompanying her, who was really caught in a horrific sexually abusive relationship. And thanks be to God, she's free of that now. And I asked her if I could just kind of share a little bit of her story and how she feels right now without giving away her name or identity or any of that stuff. And I'm only talking about that because she said it was okay. And, she was kind of talking about, how when she was in a sexually abusive relationship, it was like constant gaslighting. It was a lot of like shaming, being called names, being made to feel as if you were stupid, kind of giving different information all the time, just being kind of made to feel this big all the time. And she said, like, over the course of a sexually abusive relationship and from the conversation she's had with other women who were in similar situations as she was, she said it's like as if your will, like day by day, moment by moment, kind of gets whittled away. So like, when the time comes where you're raped, it's not like a kind of horrific assault that comes out of nowhere, being caught and like physically attacked and that happening. But she said it's kind of like your will just gets broken down. So even though you never give consent, it's just kind of like you feel almost dead on the inside. So it's almost like easier to be overcome. This is what she was saying. And she was telling me about this kind of in particular with, in relation to the COVID-19 vaccine mandates and the push for it. And again, as a Catholic and as a Catholic priest, again, to reassure everybody, it's a perfectly legitimate position to take the vaccine, and it's a legitimate position not to take the vaccine. But I'm not talking about the vaccine itself. I'm talking about the mandate and the push and the shaming and the gaslighting and the virtue signaling and singling people out and really, in essence, bullying them, trying to like whittle people's wills away so that their conscience can be more overly overcome. That's what I'm talking about, not the vaccine in and of itself, but the push and the shaming and the gaslighting and everything else that's pretty ugly that's come along with that. And the idea of mandates, the talk of mandates, has been a very big issue now. It's become a very big issue. And, the church consistently and clearly says, and I'm quoting now from the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith, December 21st, 2020, that vaccination is not, as a rule, a moral obligation, and that therefore it must be voluntary. So for somebody to take, again, the vaccine, if that's in their conscience what they feel they ought best to do, they're more than permitted to do that. And in fact, it's being encouraged, and you don't have to obviously hear that from me. The church has encouraged in many ways people to take the vaccine, but it is a legitimate position for one with being rooted in the teaching of the church for a number of different reasons, may take the legitimate position to not take the vaccine. They may choose not to take it. They may feel that in taking it, they would be going against their conscience. I'm very thankful in these days for the National Catholic Bioethics Center. They've been really remarkable in just putting resources out there that articulate the legitimate reasons a Catholic may decline taking the vaccine. Okay? So both positions, taking it and not taking it, are legitimate. Okay? You can do either as a Catholic in good conscience, but one must form their own personal conscience. Everybody has that responsibility. And then one must faithfully follow their obligation to follow their conscience. St. John Henry Newman himself said that conscience is the aboriginal vicar of Christ, and that, to follow the Pope, to be obedient to the Pope, yes, but to be obedient to conscience first. We can look up and down the history of the church throughout the centuries, men and women who have borne witness to Christ by being faithful to their conscience. We can think of somebody like St. Thomas More, who could have violated his conscience by the simple act of just saying a few words to the king and taking an oath. But in his heart, he knew that he could not do that in good conscience. And it cost him his head, literally. A different historical context, different situation for sure, but to be faithful to conscience. To not be bullied against going against your conscience, not be bullied to violate your conscience. That's a heroic stance that one may take. Again, this is a very personal subject, and I'm not talking as a medical health professional. I'm not talking about the efficacy of the vaccine itself. I'm talking about the ugliness of the push and the bullying and the shaming and all of that that's kind of been a part of this conversation, or has become a part of this conversation. That's not right, and I would really even dare to say that's pretty evil. So, again, the responsibility to form one's conscience faithfully, not to go off the deep end, but to form one's conscience faithfully, to become an intelligent Catholic, to read documents of the Church, to go to great resources like the National Catholic Bioethics Center, to form one's conscience faithfully, and to be faithful to conscience, no matter what it costs.